When people think about story-driven games, they often imagine emotional choices and branching paths, cinematic storytelling, right? But few games lean into psychological discomfort and moral unease as heavily as The Wolf Among Us. Welcome to Check That Book, a special place on YouTube where you and I get familiar with some of the most uneasy and bizarre works ever created. Disturbing content, well, sometimes we take a look at deeply provocative and disturbing, but today's one of those days where, it is unorthodox, but it works. And this video game is one of the best in its genre of all time. The Wolf Among Us is actually based on comic series by Bill Willingham and was first published in 2002, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll double check that information. It's wow, and I'm yet to finish those comic series. I am reading them, and yes, no doubt we will talk about them separately at some point soon, but the core idea, so that you understand, if you're not familiar with The Wolf Among Us as a game and the comic series, is it's a very powerful idea that the characters from the fairy tales that we know and love, not until you watch my videos on disturbing fairy tale origins, but nonetheless, those characters are brought into the real world. And that is so powerful and unique, in my opinion, that it just works. And each time there was an attempt to recreate this very idea, well, it didn't work as well as this original, which is Fables. So, we have characters from known and not so known fairy tales in the real world. It twists familiar childhood stories into something much more mature. Again, drawing a parallel to my special rubric on the channel that's called Not in Love with a Fairy Tale. Make sure to check them out. Set in a grim, rain-soaked version of New York City, the game follows Bigby Wolf, also known as the Big Bad Wolf. Yes, it is the wolf from all of those fairy tales that involve the Big Bad Wolf, from Little Red Riding Hood to the Three Piglets. You know, he is now acting as sheriff of this hidden fable community. But this is no magical happily ever after. This is a world where fairy tales have rotted into something much darker. One of the most disturbing aspects of the game is its brutal depiction of violence. From the very first episode, the player is confronted with shocking imagery, mutilated bodies, severed heads, and crime scenes that feel more like something out of a serial killer thriller than a fantasy horror story. The violence isn't just for shock, it's grounded, messy, and deeply uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. But what truly sets the game apart is not just what you see, it's what you're forced to do. Now, playing as Bigby Wolf, you're constantly forced to make choices and decisions that blur the line between justice and brutality. And you're treated like shit most of the time in this game. You are. Bigby is. Mainly because of what he represents and what he used to be. He was not a positive character ever in any of those fairy tales, to be exact. And it's constantly imposed on us as players. And especially the characters who cannot afford magical disguises, known as glamours in this universe. They're forced to live in poverty, and they look at Bigby, they look at him like a piece of shit, even if he personally hasn't done anything bad to them per se, right? But he's feared more so than he is heated. I mean, there's a thin line between hatred and fear, but so is a line between fear and respect. Now, we are capable of earning said respect in this game, and it took me a couple of playthroughs to realize that. So we have this crime case that develops into another crime case that opens up into another serious shit that our main character, we as the player, have to deal with. And along the way, we only have only a couple of characters who are being at least, if not supportive, then neutral to us. And it makes the playthrough rather sad in this regard. You're sorry. I felt sorry for Bigby. I mean, my dude is trying his best, but it seems like nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives him a chance even, except for Colin. Yeah, if you're being nice to Colin will take your side at some point. Colin the pig, I mean, one of the 3 piglets whose houses were ruined by Bigby in the old days, before the exodus, before coming to this real world.
Thanks.
Another deeply unsettling element, in my opinion, is the way that the game portrays exploitation and desperation. Many of the characters, especially those who cannot afford magical disguises, are living in poverty, pushed to the margins of society. Some are forced into degrading or dangerous situations just to survive, much like in real world. The story doesn't shy away from themes like coercion, manipulation, and systematic neglect. Again, reflecting the real life. The atmosphere amplifies all of this. The neon lights, the constant darkness, the oppressive soundtrack, it all creates a sense that something is always wrong. Even in moments of calm, there's an underlying tension, as if violence could erupt at any second. And like I said, there's always this psychological aspect of Bigby himself. You're constantly reminded of who he used to be, and that is, well, a monster. The game subtly asks, can someone truly change? Or are they just pretending? And this draws me back and makes me think about the characters and the real people, actually, who get released from prisons on parole or released from mandatory psychiatric hospitals days because they're healed all of a sudden. Half the time, those people go and commit the same crimes all over again. And this game, in this regard, I think it echoes back to this real world problem that we have, especially with convicts. I think it reflects very well, and yeah, it pushes you to think. But what pushes me to think here is the fact that people get released. Not people, most of them are monsters, indeed. I don't know, rapists, child molesters, right? Mass murderers, shit like that. Those people, those monsters, I cannot call them people, really, honestly, they are often released because the court does not usually take part in the decision of their future when it comes to them being mentally ill. Unfortunately, half the time, the doctors tend to be rather incompetent, or those monsters tend to be quite clever in pretending. And that draws us back to this game. Is Bigby really pretending? We know he isn't. But at some points in the game, especially when you make a rather negative choice to be, a bit more harsh, to be brutal, because you feel like you had enough, you've had it, you're tired of this treatment, and you are playing a bit rough. When I do it with a heavy heart and make those choices for Bigby, I see Bigby drawn as someone who actually kind of enjoys doing it. And that makes me question his nature. Is he really trying to rehabilitate himself? Or is it just all play pretend? Even for the sake of Snow White, yes, we have this little love arc there that Bigby's love interest is Snow White, who is acting as this a higher ranking fable who is now working the business office as the secretary of the deputy mayor, and later she becomes the deputy mayor and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, there's so much bureaucracy in this game in this regard. I mean, not literally, but you can sense it. It's around us. It's in the air. The Wolf Among Us also, I think, kind of showcases and maybe to a degree shames bureaucracy and how it's not doing anyone any good. People who genuinely need help wait for weeks, months, and even years to get to the business office just to ask for help. Does not that remind you of something? Well, to me it is an obvious reflection of how modern world is, well, ruled, how the system is treating us. I wait months, sometimes years, to get to a certain doctor or therapist. I know people who wait in line for months just to get a proper consultation when it comes to some bureaucratical issues or jurisdiction issues, right? You wait so long that in the end of the day, you're forced to turn to, well, not so squeaky clean or legal systems. You're forced basically to turn to the underground world to help yourself out. In modern world, well, not as extreme, but let's say you have health insurance, right? But you cannot go to a certain therapist because he's fully booked. All therapists who deal with this particular issue are fully booked for the entire year ahead, let's say. What do I do? Where do I turn to? Well, sure, I turn to expensive private practitioners. That's capitalism, baby. So that's what I'm trying to say. I understand what The Wolf Among Us also shows us. It's disturbing because it is true. It reflects our own systems very damn well. It shows corruption through the characters such as Ichabod Crane, for example, here, and Bluebeard. So you're constantly, making choices, and you're so tired. You get exhausted. Just not because you're pushed around and mistreated emotionally and mistrusted, but also because you see the corruption and the injustice in the system, that all you want to do is just fly off the fucking handle and be violent. And this game does not shy away from violence. So again, it's not a game for kids. The game depicts prostitution, not like directly, but it's hinted at. The scenes are hinted at, but there's a couple of nude scenes. I mean, we're shown some bare breasts and all of that. But then again, in Metro Exodus, I think we have some bare breasts in Metro. Yeah, so anyways, it's one of those games. It's a game for adults, much like every game I talk about on this channel. These are not for children. And these fairy tales, these fables, are not for children anymore. About the choices, I figured that the unsettling truth about this game is that sometimes the most effective choices are also the most ruthless ones. And finally, the game's mystery adds another layer of disturbance. As you uncover the truth behind the killings, you realize that the horror isn't just in the acts themselves, which are brutal, don't get me wrong, but it's in the system that allowed them to happen, much like in real world. All of these aspects that I've just spoken about make the story feel uncomfortably real, despite the fantasy setting. And again, to some, this might be a good eye-opener if you can read between the lines and if you can see the parallels, the reflections of our own world. So real. So real it hurts, but if you're used to it, and if you're just pushing through and you know what kind of world you live in, then this is not going to come as any surprise. It did to me because I was relatively young when I first played the game, but now when I replay it, sometimes I do because I love the art style. It's beautiful aesthetics, actually. It only makes me feel sadder and sadder every time I do. I like the comic book like aesthetic of it. Then again, Telltale games are famous for their aesthetic, and I'm really pissed and sad that The Wolf Among Us 2 never came to fruition. The Wolf Among Us 2 was officially announced back in 2019. But its development has been anything but smooth. The project has gone through delays, internal issues, and even a full restart at one point. It was originally planned for release around 2023, but it was pushed further back as the developers switched technology and tried to avoid crunch. As of now, the game is still technically in development, but its situation is uncertain. So the question is, will it ever come out? Well, I sure hope so. And something tells me it might, because the fan base is quite big. But when and how exactly? Well, we'll never know. I mean, we will, but we'll know when it will happen. So I think to predict something now it's rather pointless activity. Let's just hope that the developers will have enough time and financial capability to move on with this and finish the job, because the trailer already looks promising. And I really like how in the trailer you can kind of deduce that there will be characters from The Wizard of Oz, obviously. So yeah, it's interesting. We need more fairy tales, we need more fables. I need more disturbing fairy tale origins. In the end, The Wolf Among Us is disturbing not just because of the violence, but because it forces you to confront uncomfortable questions. What does justice really look like? How far is too far? And when the line between hero and monster disappears, which side are you really on? I like that. I like games that make you question things, and games that reflect reality in a very classy kind of way. The game is classy. I mean, say what you might, but to me it is a very decent, stylized, classy kind of game. Through the prism of fairy tales, very well done. So for now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all so much for watching and for being here. It means a lot. If you like unorthodox content, please consider giving this video a boost in the form of an erect thumb, and make sure to subscribe for more. That's it. I have nothing much to say, but thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I do. Take good care of yourselves and your loved ones. Cheers.